too. They speak for a city that's desperate for wins and titles, not whining and travesty. You might not agree with what they have to say, but you'll defend their right to say it. Sports fans across the world, from Chicago, Illinois, this is the Mac and Reed Show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another edition of the Mac and Reed Show right here on the Barroom Network. I'm Evan Mack. He is Ross Reed. And in case you've missed any of our previous episodes, they're up on YouTube, on the Barroom Network channel. You can check us out on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your media. Remember to like, subscribe, tell a friend or two. Check us out on social media. Follow me at The Real Evan Mack. Follow Ross at Ross Reed. How you doing, sir? Fresh off the Super Bowl, packed show.
Feeling good. We found love in a hopeless place, like Rihanna would say.
I hope you drop more Rihanna lyrics throughout the show.
If I would say, if you had the Chiefs like me, then bitch better have my money, is all I got to say as well.
Evan was happy that she led with bitch better have my money. That was a great opener. We'll talk about Rihanna. We'll talk about the Super Bowl at length in the first half of the show, say around that. And we'll talk about any other NFL headlines as we now the Bears are on the clock. Of course, talk about that a bit. And them closing on the Arlington Heights property today. We'll be talking about the NBA All-Star break and how I'm not excited for it, but things to look for in the second half and what we thought of the first half as well. Surprises along the way, many a quick hit. What'd you do for the Super Bowl, Ross? Walk me through the menu too. I want to hear it.
Yeah, we had a couple people over the house. It was nice, intimate, about 6 people. Did a little pulled pork. Are you hip on Wild Fork? You ever been to Wild Fork before?
No, not hip on Wild Fork.
Wild Fork this is not an ad, but if they want to pay me, they most definitely can.
There he is.
But Wild Fork they sell nothing but fresh meat, but then they freeze it right away. Like they seal it and freeze it right away, almost like a sous what do you call that thing?
Sous vide, yeah.
Like a sous vide kind of thing.
Vacuum seal it. Yeah.
Yeah. But you get any kind of meat there, from all your steaks, Wagyu, pork, boar, elk, bison, all across the board. And it's a really cool place. It's everything's all freezer. You just walk in, you self-serve yourself, you pick it up, take it home, defrost it, and you cook it. So anyway, I bought a couple pork roasts, bone in, and then I shredded it and turned it into pulled pork, which was absolutely fantastic. Had a couple nice salads. We had some desserts. We had some insomnia cookies. It was very nice, very nice.
Nice spread. I like the Reed household there. It did something similar. We had some Parsons and some dips and all that in a very intimate setting as we watched the Chiefs ultimately beat the Eagles in what was a pretty great Super Bowl. I think when you talk about the greatness of Super Bowls, there's a lot that goes into what is a great Super Bowl for many reasons. And first of all, leading with us diving into the X's and O's and the storylines, we knew that it was all about the quarterbacks. We knew that it was about the MVP winner who was announced this past Saturday, right before the Super Bowl, and Patrick Mahomes. We knew it was going to be his to lose. And I think he got all the votes except for 2, something like that. I mean, it was ridiculous. And you knew it was going to be a runaway for him. But we saw him get arguably outplayed in that game by the other guy on the Eagles, and Jalen Hurts, who has certainly a bright future ahead of him for sure if they can keep the great core around him. Look at the numbers and the big plays he had. He had over 300 yards passing, 3 touchdowns on the ground. It was a great performance. One of those, too, where you see in the Super Bowl where you could easily give the MVP to the losing quarterback in Jalen Hurts. He played his ass off, and both teams did. So, looking at the offensive side of things, incredible catches on both sides throughout the game with 2 great tight ends and Travis Kelce and Goddard. Goddard had some insane catches. When you think about Nick Sirianni and the coaching and again, going against Andy Reid and some of the bad blood we talked about last week, it was really it came down to Andy Reid being the difference maker, I think, going into the fourth quarter when you saw him calling corn dog twice in opposite ends of the field and them being able to score on both those plays. It was masterful by him. Isaiah Pacheco had his great season and carried the Chiefs rushing attack. Go down 10 to the second half. They showed that fight either way. And Ross, you called it with that Butker kick to ultimately seal the game, 38-35. But these teams, were number one seeds for a reason. And it was a heavyweight fight. I think that it certainly had all the, defensive moments and all the offensive moments where it lived up to the hype. And, we'll get to the only sort of downsides as far as the penalties in a moment. But was this a classic to you, Ross? Did it live up to the hype to you?
It did. I mean, we talked about last week heading into the game. It was the complete team in the Eagles versus the baddest man in the world and Pat Mahomes, right? And where the Eagles going to be, come together as a team to be able to, stop the best player in football. And ultimately, they weren't able to do it. And that's no shame to them. I think a lot of people were sliding the Eagles in that game and sliding them in the days afterwards. But listen, they had a great season. You lost to a guy who probably right now is slotted in as the third best quarterback of all time. And he's, still in his 20s. He's got a lot to do. He might end up being the best of all time. So if you lost to that guy, there's no shame in it at all. You hit it on the head. Andy Reid, I thought, was absolutely outstanding, especially in the second half. He called it corn dog. I mean, it was basically, a couple whip routes. He used Travis Kelce kind of as a decoy and allowed the defense to follow him towards the middle of the field while he whipped those receivers out to the outside, and they were able to be wide open because that's what the kind of player Kelce is. He's gonna draw that much attention. And they got touchdowns with Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore. But also, I think people fail to realize the Juju Smith-Schuster play that got the hold to end up sealing the game was the same exact play. And Bradbury saw it coming for the third time. They just couldn't stop it. And he ended up holding him. And we'll talk about it. It was a hold. But that was, that was it right there. You see here at the top of the screen, Kelce draws so much attention that, Bradbury is basically on an island versus Juju Smith-Schuster, and he grabbed his jersey and did it twice, and that was a hold. So, but I thought it was a masterful job by Andy Reid. I thought it showed a lot of guts by Pat Mahomes for the second game in a row to he was absolutely outstanding in the second half. And I think if you're the Eagles, you're going to be kicking yourself, especially on defense, because you were, all year round, this defense was getting after the quarterback. They were putting up record numbers in sacks. It was basically as close to a dominant defense as you saw all year. And I thought in the second half, they were basically just non-existent. They weren't able to get any kind of pressure. They really weren't able to guard anybody. Juju Smith-Schuster was just open all the time in the second half. And they allowed Pacheco to kind of gash them on the ground. And I think the eyes got a little bit too bright for them. I think they got out-schemed a little bit by one of the 5 best coaches of all time. He got beat by one of the best quarterbacks of all time. But, you look at the Josh Sweats of the world and Hassan Reddicks and Fletcher Cox and stuff like that. Those guys just really didn't show up like you needed them to in the second half, especially because on the other side of football, Jalen Hurts was playing absolutely out of his mind, all game long, despite for that fluke fumble that he had that led to a touchdown.
Yeah, and you talk about a game of momentum and then the adjustments that came in the second half. And obviously talking about the Eagles and the defense did not have an answer. Luckily, Jalen Hurts just kept them in that game and kept it knotted at 35 into that fourth quarter. But you also mentioned that if Jalen Hurts doesn't drop that ball and have that ridiculous fumble where it's a scoop and score and make it a 10-point game for the Chiefs, you wonder if they may have not been able to dig themselves out of that hole if they take care of the football at that point. There was, but to come back like that, I do give a lot of credit to Andy Reid and to a guy who was hurt throughout this playoffs. And when he re-injured his ankle, the doctors just shot him up with something, and he wasn't going out like that. He was going to come right back into the game. But Pat Mahomes, every bit the player as advertised for the grit he showed, 27 years old, to break the streak of MVP winners who didn't go on and win a Super Bowl. I mean, the cojones on that man. It was a down game for him, but he made the big throws when it counted. Going to the Bradbury hold, I was, miffed at the time when you go and it just left a bad taste in your mouth. When it looks like in the AFC, at least, the refs are making the storylines, and I don't want to hear about the fucking refs. I want to hear about the X and O. I want to hear about the players on the field. They should be getting these headlines. And honestly, you didn't see really many controversial calls like that throughout the game. It just felt like, you want to talk about the Illuminati or Vegas intervening or something like that. It just left a bad taste in your mouth. But you look at the Eagles side of the football on the losing end, owned up to it. Sirianni owned up to it. Bradbury owned up to it. And you sort of take it for what it is. And we're not going to remember, hopefully we don't remember the Super Bowl just for that alone. And the rest of this AFC playoffs and playoffs as a whole. You think about the storylines we just mentioned, and Andy Reid solidifying himself on that Mount Rushmore and getting another Super Bowl trophy and doing it against the Eagles is a great storyline. And then Pat Mahomes really just one for the ages. Travis Kelce, as we thought, had such an incredible game. And then you feel for of course, the Kelce brothers and that whole storyline into this week, as Mama Kelce had one of the best weeks of any of the parents out there, getting to see both her boys playing a Super Bowl, but one of them had to lose. And unfortunately, it was Jason Kelce of the Eagles. And if you've watched, NFL films, having them mic'd up and seen them talk about it on Travis Kelce's podcast and them tearing up, it's so emotional, and it's very cool to see the sportsmanship and the journey that both those guys had. On the Chiefs side too, you mentioned, in Corn Dog, there were two guys, in Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney, who are probably third, fourth best wide receivers on football teams, and they, make their mark in the Super Bowl. Talk about Jerick McKinnon, who had that he easily could have scored a touchdown, and that would have been he'd been able to tell his kids about it in the Super Bowl, but took one for the team and ran out the clock, kept it in bounds. So it's just a great team effort by the Chiefs and Eagles. A hell of a season. You got to hang your hat on that. It's unfortunate for the Eagles losing both their defensive and offensive coordinator right after the Super Bowl, going to get head coaching jobs right away. But the future is certainly bright for the Eagles, and not just because of Jalen Hurts. They certainly need to keep that core around him. But I think it was a good team effort. You just got to figure out defensively, and now again, the whole of the coordinators, but you got to figure out what to address in this offseason. But they can easily be right back there next year.
Yeah, and circling back to that play, it obviously was the defining moment at the end of the football game. But to me, if you're the Eagles, you have a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter that you gave up, right? And you control the time of possession all game. You had well over time of possession was 35 minutes and 47 seconds compared to 24 minutes and 13 seconds for the Chiefs. So you kicked their ass in that area, right? You ran 19 more plays than them on offense. And I mean, there was a stretch there, I think it was like the second quarter or whatever, we didn't see Pat Mahomes hit the field for like 8 minutes of game time. Obviously the fumble for the return was a big deal in that. But to me, the Eagles were controlling that game so much. But when you went into the fourth quarter, and your sphincter tightens up just a little bit, and I think that the game got a little too tight for the Eagles, and I think they just flat out gave it up. And I think this comes down to experience and a coach like Andy Reid being there before, and a guy like Pat Mahomes being there before, and they've got veterans on that team on both sides of the football that have been in that spot before. And even when the Eagles were up by 10 points or 7 points or anything like that, it never felt like they were really comfortable, and it never felt like they were able to put the Chiefs away. If you don't put a team away like that early on, it's going to really cost you, just like it did. And even when it turned into 35-35, I was like, I don't think Pat Mahomes is ever going to give this football back to them. And he didn't, obviously, right? And it would have been cool to see Jalen Hurts with a minute something left and one timeout to see if he can go down the field and tie that game with a field goal. But again, I think that Eagles defense is going to be kicking themselves in the offseason and saying, man, we had multiple opportunities to make some plays and really close this game out, because the offense was balling out and we didn't get there. We didn't get it done. you make a couple points on the Eagles in the offseason. They got a big offseason. They have a lot of free agents on there. The aforementioned James Bradbury is a free agent. Josh Sweat is a free agent. They've got a lot of guys on both sides of the ball that are going to be looking to cash in on this Super Bowl run, but they still also want to get an extension done with Jalen Hurts. And Nick Sirianni lost both of his coordinators. And so I think that this is going to be a very difficult, postseason for the Eagles. We've seen many times before. There's a real Super Bowl hangover, both on the winning side and the losing side. I'm not going to write them off to get back to Super Bowl next year, but I think it's going to be an uphill climb, because for you to lose both coordinators and potentially lose free agents and stuff like that on both sides of the ball, it's going to be difficult. And then you got a big target on your back, right? And so teams are going to come out next year and they're going to say, yeah, we want to show you that you're not the team that you think you are, and we want to beat the Eagles. As for the Chiefs, there's a reason why they need to be the Super Bowl favorites next year, because as long as you have Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes on the field and Travis Kelce, to me, that core group is as great as it gets, and I'm not going to bet against them. I think that this will be the last time we ever see Pat Mahomes as an underdog in a Super Bowl. From here on out, never have him be an underdog in the Super Bowl. He's earned the right to be the favorite. He should have been probably the favorite going into this game, and I think we're going to start to realize that a lot more. But it was a great game. I think that the halftime was a big turning point, the extended halftime, because you got 27 minutes when you factor in what Rihanna had to do, but you factor in what the stage tear down and putting it together, and then the commentators got to talk about it and stuff like that. That allowed Pat Mahomes to probably get some treatment and some really, really good drugs at halftime on that ankle. And he looked great. And it also allowed Andy Reid to really look at some things and say, okay, this has been open all game. Let's make these minor adjustments and let's go from there. And we didn't even mention the punt, because I think the Kadarius Toney punt return was a huge play. I think when that happened and we all looked and we said, oh shit, I think the Chiefs are probably going to win this football game. That's just a god-awful punt. But again, that goes back to experience from you not being there. You can't punt the football like that in that situation, and your gunners can't lose track of Toney in that situation. And the Giants gave him up for nothing, and he goes out there, he makes a play to catapult them, and then a touchdown to really do things, and they win a Super Bowl thanks to his accomplishments.
Yeah, it was all the phases for the Chiefs, right? That scoop and score was huge, and the play that was overturned that looked like a catch that wasn't. I think it was Goddard who got the ball punched out, and that could have been another fumble return for a touchdown there, and maybe give the Chiefs even more of an edge in that second half. But it's been pointed out in the comments. And by the way, if you feel like commenting on anything we missed when talking about the Super Bowl here on Mac and Reed, feel free to chime in the chat. But it came down to the Eagles defense not being able to defend the offensive coaching of Andy Reid. And it was largely the same routes that were run. And again, just plugging in these guys besides Travis Kelce, who it's so crazy. Can't say enough about the adjustment from a guy who's a top 5 wide receiver in a lot of people's minds, and Tyreek Hill, losing him and going ahead and plugging in guys. You lose McCole Hardman. You have Juju Smith-Schuster and other guys that you just plug in, and they made it work. And in the second half, they really showed that fight, and they showed that experience, which goes a long way. And it's very tough for the Eagles, who have such a great passing attack and a good offenses, as we've discussed at length. But historically, we have seen that look at the Rams this last season, look at the losers of the past in the NFC, and whoever comes out losing the Super Bowl, it's tough to get right back there. It's going to be tough enough for the winners to go back and repeat. We saw the parade today where Travis Kelce and Pat Mahomes and everybody were chanting "run it back," but it is super hard in today's NFL. And again, on the Eagles note, they're in a tough division, and we saw how the Giants and the Cowboys are really close. It's up there. We know that Jalen Hurts is the class of that division, I think, in the class of the NFC. But it's going to be tough sledding for them. It's going to be a very tough offseason. On to Juju Smith-Schuster and his Valentine. We said we sent that out on Twitter, And if you missed it, go check it out on Twitter. Just go see Juju's Twitter. It says, "I'll hold you when it matters most." It has a picture of James Bradbury. And AJ Brown did not take kindly to that. He said, quote, "First off, congratulations. Y'all deserve it." This is the best tweet. "Y'all deserve it. This is lame. You was on the way out the league," talking about Juju, "before Mahomes resurrected your career on your 1-year deal. TikTok boy. He admitted that he grabbed you, but don't act like you were like that or ever was. But congratulations again. It was very hot and cold." What'd you make of this Twitter?
I love it. I love any kind of beef, especially over the Super Bowl. Listen, I think that when you win a championship, when you win a Super Bowl, you get carte blanche to talk as much trash as you want to for the entire offseason. So I have zero problems with what Juju Smith-Schuster said. And, A.J. Brown's going to defend his guy. And then also Pat Mahomes jumped in there and he decided to back Juju as well. But I don't have a problem with it. I do have, I think, a little beef with A.J. Brown with what he said about Juju. I mean, listen, Juju has actually had a pretty successful career, so far. I mean, he didn't have a great 2021, but not a lot of guys on that Steelers offense did. Yeah, he was marred by injuries a little bit, but that was also Big Ben and his noodle arms, last year. But listen, Juju has 78 receptions this year, 933 yards. That's a pretty solid year for him. This guy has caught over 100 balls in his career, 1,400 yards. He's a guy that that does the dirty work on the football field from a wide receiver standpoint that a lot of other receivers, especially this day and age, don't like to do. He'll work the middle of the field or run those dirty routes or take those big hits. And I like him a lot. Everybody calls him TikTok boy and they try to make fun of him and stuff like that. But he's a tough guy. And he makes some tough catches, and he made some tough catches in that football game. And listen, he's a free agent right now. If the Bears are looking for a cheap wide receiver, to bring in, if they decide they want to draft a wide receiver at the top of the second round, or if they trade down in this draft and get a wide receiver in the first round, Juju Smith-Schuster can come on in and be my third or fourth wide receiver any day of the week. I think that he would be a great fit for Justin Fields in the middle of the field in this Bears offense. But yeah, I don't have a problem with it. It's all fun. The guy's a champion today, and let him talk trash.
I'm back. Yeah, I agree with you. And Ian Rappaport, look at this guy. We got the best bots on the Mac and Reed show in the chat here. It's not Ian Rappaport. No. But I'm all for it, man. I think Juju gets it too. It's a shit talker's league. Like, this is just what happens, and someone's got to be on the losing end, and you go to bat for your boy there. And it was really funny to see the rest of the NFL react to this tweet as well. Let's get to and also I didn't even mention this. Going into the game, this field at Arizona, like Arizona, the stadium is state of the art. It looks great and all, but the field was talked about at length. This $800,000 field that the field is on rollers and they can roll it outside and sun it, and they put all this great care into it because of the sod father who had done all the Super Bowls, and he's 94 and this is his last one. Well, apparently it's time to retire because both sides of the football fucking hated your field. It looked like Soldier Field out there. It was abysmal. It was not good. And I don't understand why that happened. It looked like Soldier Field out there in AZ.
It was bad. You ever heard my hot take on the Super Bowl? My hot take on the Super Bowl is, why doesn't the NFL just have their own version of Coachella, right? Like, why can't you just take a piece of land out in the middle of nowhere, probably in California, something like that, and build a massive stadium, build infrastructure around it, hotels, restaurants, blah, blah, blah. And you just have the Super Bowl in one spot every single year. And then when you don't have games there, you can have college football games there. You can have college basketball games there. You can have concerts there, but it should have like a Coachella, Bonnaroo type of vibe, right? Like, there's plenty of spaces out there in the world where you can do this at, but you have it in Glendale, and Glendale is fine. I've been on that area before, but you're in Glendale over here, and then you're in Scottsdale, people over there in Phoenix. It's all spread out and stuff like that. You keep switching. You have this mess like the field had this year. Next year it's in Vegas. I can't even imagine the shit show of being in Vegas for a Super Bowl and stuff like that. And we've had Super Bowls in New York, which was a weather disaster, and Minnesota, which was a weather disaster.
Yeah.
I know the NFL likes to move it around from spot to spot, but to me, just find your own spot somewhere and have the Super Bowl like as its own entity in one set location where we can go to every single year. And I think it would actually be successful. Roger Goodell, call me. You can have a whole Super Bowl city and create it. The NFL's got enough money; they can fund this.
It certainly do. I think it just goes back to each city wants its piece, right? You want to go from Vegas to LA off to, even Minnesota now that they have a dome. They want to be able to host a Super Bowl at that point. But it looks like they need to pay more attention to the field, more so than making sure that Rihanna has about 1,000 fucking fireworks. Did you enjoy Rihanna coming out rocking her baby bump? Second child confirmed on the way. They call him ASAP for a reason. And and leading with "Bitch Better Have My Money." She played all the hits. She did well over like 10 songs, it felt like. I enjoyed it. I respected that she did not have features. Everybody was guessing if Jay-Z is going to come out or ASAP or Eminem or whoever. It was just her and her dancers, and the great dancers, by the way. And I love the memes and everything that came out with the dancers after the fact. But it was a solid Super Bowl performance. Good choreography. She has the hits. You forget that Rihanna just has these hits and owned the 2000s with hits for so long, and now she's confirming she's got an album coming out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the performance. It was great to see her out there again. Again, she did, I think it was 13 songs in 17 minutes. And she probably left about another 8 or 9 hits on the table that she didn't do. She didn't do, Disturbia. She didn't do a lot of her hits that she has. So, Rihanna's got hits for days. I think we saw some people kind of critiquing her for not dancing and not moving around, stuff like that. This woman's pregnant. She just had a baby. She's got a second baby on the way. She doesn't need to. She is 37 years old. She's engaged. She's got kids. She's a mom. She's a billionaire at this point. She does not need to appease you by shaking her ass and titties out there, because you haven't seen it in 7 years. But it was a good return for her. It was good to see her back out there. And I hope that this man stops getting her pregnant selfishly so that we can get another album from her, please. I miss Rihanna making amazing music. I know Fenty is very successful. My wife uses those makeup products, has some of the sleepwear and stuff like that. But please make a new album. But in the meantime, I did enjoy the performance. I like the no features part. We haven't seen her on stage in some years. I don't need to see her perform with anybody when we haven't seen her on stage. It's such a short amount of time that they have in that little window. She has to crank out so many different songs that I don't mind that. What I did love is anytime you have a moving stage, I'm all in. I'm all in on the moving stage.
Yeah.
I love that. I love how it raised up in the air. It was getting a little wobbly there at the top. I was getting worried for mom, but she's okay.
Scary. Yeah. One of the dancers almost fall off.
Absolutely. But she was okay. But I loved it. And now we get to speculate next about who's it going to be next year. I would put Taylor Swift as the favorite at probably plus 200-ish. But they are in Vegas next year, and the Killers are from Vegas. I don't know if the Killers are a big enough band, but that is a band that is from Vegas, and it might be cool to see a hometown group get the nod.
Well, first of all, Nomad from the top rope just shit talking Rihanna. You got to stick to the football takes there, my friend. Yeah, exactly. But on the Vegas tip, I want like a medley. I want Tom Jones and Wayne Newton and everybody who's done a residency and Adele.
You're gonna get Carrot Top. You're gonna get Carrot Top and like it.
No comedy. No, we don't need like Kevin Hart coming out there. But yeah, just rotate the music.
You would have got Gallagher if he was still alive, and he would have been smashing watermelons all over the celebrities.
A hologram of Gallagher. How about it? Miss anything else from the Super Bowl? It delivered, man. I enjoyed
Yeah,
it.
I don't think so. I mean, the commercials were pretty mad this year. I think last year we got the crypto bowl. We got a crypto commercial every couple minutes. I think
A lot of
we
crypto.
we,
Oh
we
yeah,
saw the state of the cryptocurrency this year because we got zero crypto ads, but we did get 2 Jesus ads. So shout out to Jesus. Apparently he's got $20 million
yo,
to spend on commercials. Good for him.
banking on those Super Bowl
Yeah,
commercials.
throw me some bucks there. The Ben Affleck ad was pretty good with Jennifer Lopez. I like that one. It's good to see Puff Daddy in that commercial as well. But all in all, I thought the commercials were pretty meh. And now we move towards the off season. And locally here for Chicago, Bears are officially on the clock. But as we all know, we don't, and as we all anticipate, we don't think they're going to stay at that first overall pick. I've got some thoughts. I've got some ideas. I've heard some rumblings on some things as to what's going to go on with that first overall pick. So it's going to be interesting to see how things shake out.
Offseason just getting started, right? We shall see. I think it is what you touched on, Ross. There's been rumors of, the Colts tipping their hands and wanting Bryce Young. And someone I saw tweeted like Bryce Young is a shorter Patrick Mahomes, something like that. I'm like, I don't care about the size part of it. Like, can he ball? And it'll be interesting to see what happens with that first overall pick. And the biggest news today for the Bears as their offseason has begun officially is them closing on the Arlington Heights racetrack and what they will do with that. And Lori doing her last plead with the Bears to keep the team in the city, and the Bears also releasing their statement, kind of keeping it vague, but more so like, we're going to Arlington Heights, fuck you, we're gone. So that'll be interesting to monitor as well as we get into this offseason, and we'll see. Again, free agency is going to happen so quickly, and the draft will be upon us in a matter of no time. That's for sure.
It does. Free agency, to answer King's question, does start on March 15th. So we're about literally a month away from that, about a couple weeks away from that. But they can start to do that legal tampering bullshit that they talk about a couple days before that. So you'll start to hear some rumblings. Most importantly, the scouting, the combine is within a couple weeks. That's where a lot of these deals come to fruition. From a Bears standpoint, we don't know if the 3 top quarterbacks are going to be throwing at the combine, but that's going to give us a better idea of who's going to fall between, the first quarterback taken off the board or the second or third quarterback taken off the board. So listen, Bryce Young, as of now, is the first quarterback that's going to be taken off the board, but he's going to measure out at about 5'9", 5'10". He's going to measure out at about 190 pounds. And that's going to cause some concerns for some people. He does see the field very well. He's a great processor. He's a terrific athlete, but I would get concerned about drafting a 5'10", 190-pound quarterback, right? Especially if you're going to draft him first overall. Obviously, if Bryce was 6'3", 225, he's a slam dunk first overall pick. I think for the sake of the teams that are at the top right now, you look at what the offense that the Colts are going to run. They obviously just hired the offensive coordinator from the Eagles. That offense really is predicated for a guy like Bryce Young. He fits that offense to a T. Whereas you look at what the Texans are going to run, and they're going to want to run an offense that is more of that West Coast style, that Kyle Shanahan style, and they like bigger quarterbacks, and they like guys that kind of play between the tackles a little bit more with their quarterbacks and rollouts and play action and stuff like that. And I think CJ Stroud actually fits that situation very well, for theirs. So I fully anticipate right now that the Colts are going to try their hardest to move up to the first overall pick, because they're going to really covet Bryce Young. And we'll see how things shake out. But I actually think that the Texans might do a little bit of smoke spraying, but they don't mind taking CJ Stroud at the second overall pick. So it's going to be really interesting to see how things shake out. Dark horses, Tennessee Titans want to move up and get a quarterback. I've been told that off to the side that they really want to move up. Not sure how high they can move up, right? Falcons are thinking about quarterback. Raiders are out in the cold right now unless they find a way to get Aaron Rodgers. And then also Carolina Panthers did not hire Frank Wright to bring in another retread. So, are they a Anthony Richardson team or Will Levi team? Or are they going to come up and get a quarterback as well? So that's going to be interesting. A lot of stuff is going to go down at the combine, in terms of that shaking out. And then the Bears, I know everybody wants De'Aaron Payne in free agency. It's looking like Washington is gonna put the franchise tag on him. It looks like they're willing to decline the 5th-year option for Chase Young to bring back De'Aaron Payne. They value him more, so the Bears are going to have to pivot off of what probably was their number one free agent signing to some more guys, young man from the Denver Broncos that Matt Bourne had a great tweet about today, who's a defensive tackle, could probably be on their eyes. So it's going to be fun next couple of weeks and see how things shake out.
Yeah, and it's going to be a lot of it's going to hinge on the quarterback movement and how these teams reach for him. We know Derek Carr just got would they not pick up his option or whatever they said basically a day before he was due the $40 million guaranteed. And so we'll see where he lands, and that'll also dictate a lot of the quarterback market and these other teams who are going to try to move up in the draft to get there. And you talked about all the concerns for the younger guys there, and it'll be interesting to see if the Houston Texans can turn it around. DeMeco Ryans, I enjoyed how he brought your favorite Key and Peele sketch to life, Ross, and was doing the different handshakes in his presser as well. But we'll be talking a lot about free agency in these weeks coming, getting you prepped for the draft as we roll on. But now let's pivot to the NBA, Ross, as we're talking about the NBA at the All-Star break, and we talked about the trades at length in the last week or so, and obviously it's creating a bit of a shift in the West, and some fringe contenders are getting back up there. The Suns are super team, with Durant. We'll see when he's healthy and playing with that unit how good they can be. We've seen the Mavs, in the first couple of games with Kyrie, if he can stay relatively sane and play nice with Luka, then they're going to make a run. And we know the first half was dominated by the likes of the Celtics and the Bucks and the Sixers in the East and the West, as we were talking about Denver Nuggets and the Grizzlies and the Mavs now trying to get up there, and the Suns all jockeying for pole position there. And it's just the same old story for the Bulls, who are just woefully bad from 3-point shooting. I saw they were 20 from 103 shooting threes in their recent 4-game losing streak. You just can't win in the NBA like that. And they stood pat at the trade deadline like we expected, which was disappointing. But, before we talk about the All-Star weekend festivities, what are you looking forward to in the second half?
You're starting to look forward to, who's going to be able to get their teams healthy and who's going to start to jockey for position to be who's going to be the top 2 or 3 teams in each conference to be able to compete for an NBA title. So for me, in the Eastern Conference, there's only 3 teams that I think are legitimately title contenders. That's Boston, Milwaukee, and Philadelphia. And then in the Western Conference, to me, it's Denver. And then you jump down, it's Phoenix. I still put Golden State in there. They got to get healthy. They need stuff back. And I'm keeping an eye on the Clippers. I think the Clippers could make a move in that situation. But I really like Denver a lot. I know Kevin Durant is in Phoenix. I just don't trust Chris Paul to stay healthy for entire playoffs. I don't even trust Kevin Durant to stay healthy for entire playoffs at this point. I've been on Denver all year. I'm not going to get off them right now. I like Denver a lot out the West, but the East is going to be fun because, it was a fun game last night between the Celtics and the Bucks. As the Bucks are starting to get healthy, Celtics still need to get Jaylen Brown back, but don't sleep on Philadelphia. Don't sleep on Joel Embiid. I think that Eastern Conference is going to be really, really fun. And I think that for now, whoever wins between the Celtics and the Bucks, if it ever comes down to those 2 teams in the Eastern Conference, I think they're going to be able to win the NBA title. I think the NBA title was going to be able to come out the East this year, and I picked Milwaukee at the beginning of the year to win. I'm going to stick with them. I think that Giannis is just on another planet right now. He looks phenomenal. He's a great athlete, keeps himself in shape. He had a little bit of injury scare yesterday, but the guy's so pliable. He just bounced right back up and dominated. And so I just don't know if there's anybody in the NBA that can guard Giannis in a 7-game series. And because of that, I got to take them.
I don't know how Milwaukee has won 11 straight too, as it was pointed out recently. And you look at the power rankings, all the teams we've talked about here, and the Bucks have been there before, and they're such a complete basketball team. And you think the Celtics can get right back there as well if they can just get past the major and minor injuries that they have. We know Jaylen Brown missing some time there, and the West needs to get healthy as well, and that's what the All-Star break's about. On the Western Conference side of things, we'd like to see the Nuggets get over the hump and then see who else shakes out of in the rest of this league. And Memphis, the rest of this conference, Memphis is right up there. Look at the Kings; they're making a run. There's a team that no one's really talking about, and I guess for good reason, because it's not exactly loaded, but it's guys like De'Aaron Fox who've been there for a while, and Harrison Barnes. When was the last time you heard his name in the conversation of great players? But Domantas Sabonis, one of those great double threats out there. They're a complete team, and so that's interesting storyline to watch as well. But ahead of this, going to the All-Star break, it's in Utah, and just you're looking at everything from the 3-point contest to the celebrity game to the dunk contest. It's just very underwhelming, Ross. I don't. I mean, I'm going to tune in. I certainly want to see, especially the dunk contest. I know it's all been done before, but and there's no star power. I think it comes back to that 3-point contest. You get Tatum, you get Kevin Huerter, you get everyone from Jason Tatum to Kevin Huerter, and everybody in between there. So it'll mainly be part of that, and then the All-Star game itself is always entertaining with major dunks, but. I'm just. Are you as underwhelmed as I am and not excited?
Yeah, I mean, the 3-point contest is a little exciting to me. We get Tyrese Halliburton, All-Star for the for the Indiana Pacers. Tyler Hero, thinks he's an All-Star.
Yeah.
Buddy Hield, Kevin Huerter, like you said, Damian Lillard, obviously a great player. Former Bull, Larry Markkinen, Anthony Simons, is a rising star, and Jason Tatum. I like that group a lot. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. That dunk contest is just hot garbage on a stick. Jericho Sims, Matt McClung, Trey Murphy III. I don't know who the hell those guys are. And the last
Kenyon Martin's dad is.
I was going to say the last guy is Kenyon Martin Jr. And I only know him because I remember his old man playing basketball back in the day. There is a great clip going around on Twitter of the Bulls' Dalen Terry throwing a great alley-oop to Kenyon Martin Jr. And showing off his hops. But that's a rough group. I've always said, this has been my theory. If the NBA and he takes this, you owe me some money. But to me, you should have the shoe companies, Nike, New Balance, Adidas, right? Each of them put up $1 million, and each of them front their guys. They all have their own guys that they want to go out there. And the winner of the dunk contest gets $1 million of their own. And then $1 million should also go to a charity of their choice. And I think that'll entice some of these stars to get back in the mix a little bit. These guys have no incentive to get off from sitting in the first floor wearing their hype beast gear to go out there and actually participate in these dunk contests anymore. But you start getting guys from Team Nike and Team Adidas and Team New Balance and stuff like that, and you start throwing out there $1 million, and all of a sudden the competitive nature of these guys start to kick back up, and I think you'll get some stars back in this. I think that's what's going to entice these things, but you have to fix this. When I was a kid, I remember Jordan, and I remember Dominique, and I remember Sean Kemp, and I remember D. Brown, and I remember all the stuff, Harold Miner, and all the great dunk contests. How can we forget Vince Carter? Even recently, we saw Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon and Dwight Howard and stuff like that. I would like to see the bigger names and the bigger stars get back to the dunk contest, because it was must-see TV when we were kids. It was so much fun, and now I don't know who the hell these guys are. I think half of them are in the G League, and that's just not good.
It's not good, and the only way that they'll sort of change the narrative is to bring out Kenyon Martin, bring out his father, and Mac McClung could get Dr. J out there, who's a winner of a dunk contest, but it's all more theatrics, and you're not tuning in for any of these guys' names, and maybe Mac McClung will show that he's worthy of winning this thing. But I'm with you, Ross. It's just has lacked star power for so long when the guys who should be in it are not in it, you know, the Zions of the world and Ja Morant's, and you wonder why and what is it going to take for them to get in there. And these are competitive dudes, so it's just really curious to see that. As far as the All-Star game itself is concerned, you know, we talked about the starting lineups and what's at stake. I don't even know.
It's
Anything?
I think it's home court advantage in the NBA
It is home
finals
court advantage. Yeah,
for
which is
the
like
winning conference.
two
Yes,
three two, yeah, 2-3-2 setup that it is.
yes.
Anyways, you know, there's something at stake there. So, but it's I don't know. It's entertainment. It's in Salt Lake City is just like what kind of what kind of destination is this for the All-Star game? We'll see what kind of star power is out there. Vin Diesel's like doing the introductions. It just looks like a shit show. It just does not look.
I also, you know, Utah's a fine place. Shout out to the people of Utah. Having Karl Malone back in the public eye, I'm good on that. This guy impregnated a 13-year-old at one point in his life. I just don't think that we need to bring back Karl. Yeah, I don't think we need to bring back Karl. I don't think we need to bring back Karl Malone for any reason anymore.
Bring out John Stockton, but no one else.
Don't bring him out either. One of the best things that Michael Jordan ever did was deny Karl Malone and John Stockton of rings twice.
Yeah. Oh my God, yes, absolutely. Well, you know, Utah's on the team. The Jazz itself is sort of on the uptake, even though not so in the standings. But yeah, that'll be a pass. But we'll watch it. We'll see how it goes. As we close out the show in these last minutes here, what else is going on, Ross? I mean, I know that I did want to talk about this. True Joy of the Dove of De La Soul died at 54. De La, of course, one of the best groups in hip hop coming out of the 90s. You know, love De La's work with Native Tongues and the Gorillas, and True Joy with the great verse on Feel Good, Feel Good Inc. And that was a bummer. And they're about to stream their whole catalog on all streaming services coming out, I think, at the beginning of March in a few weeks here.
That's correct. They were in a fight with Tommy Boy for a long time. A lot of hip hop artists were in a fight with Tommy Boy for the rights to their music. This lasted for decades. They were finally able to get their masters back and get the rights back to their music. And it was coming out on all the DSPs within a month, and he passed away before that happened. So it was really sad because they're about to go on a run musically. They're about to be reintroduced to a whole different generation that never even heard their music before. It's outstanding. It's one of my favorite hip hop groups of all time. I can't wait to stream their music again. And Prince Paul, another hip hop great, he was even tweeted out last week they were working on a new album. So hopefully we can hear brand new music for them. But it's really sad to lose him at 54 years old. We lost Raquel Welch today, great actress as well. She was in her 80s, very a vixen from the 60s and whatnot. So, but yeah, shout out to them, obviously. And it's that time of the year where we're kind of heading out of the winter a little bit. You just kind of hope that we can keep these things at a minimum and get back to brighter sunlight days and stuff like that. Hopefully everybody had a great Valentine's Day. Did you do anything special for the missus for Valentine's Day?
Oh, not a damn thing when you're married with a kid. I mean, I know you keep it spicy, Ross, but we're very content to just like order in and not do much. Valentine's Day, I don't like to buy in. It's like, but when you buy Halloween candy at Halloween, I'm not going to buy $60 flowers. Get it the next day when they're half price. The same thing with it was a shit show driving around my neighborhood yesterday, man. It was a lot going on. But the key is just to make your own celebration after the fact. And I'm not being romantic and saying every day is Valentine's Day, but just do it on your own terms. Keep it spicy. When it's surprising, it's more, it adds to the spice of life too. It's unexpected. That's what I like.
Yes.
The tips.
It's President's Day on Monday. How many presidents can you name in 30 seconds?
Oh, man. Are we starting the clock? All right. Garfield, Clinton, Bush. Who am I going to lead with? Washington, Jackson. So many. I could name probably 20. I don't know.
20?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite off the radar, nondescript president? Are you like a Calvin Coolidge kind of guy?
Is he the one who died in 30 days?
I think that was Harding. Wasn't that Harding?
Harding. Yeah. Who died in the tub?
my history teacher is going to be so pissed off at me.
Oh yeah, all gone. I was a big Roosevelt guy.
Roosevelt?
Oh, yeah,
Absolutely.
or FDR or Teddy Roosevelt. They're great.
Yes. Yeah. As people don't know, can you name in Chicago all of the president's streets and name in order?
No, I cannot.
So after Lake Street, right? You've got Randolph, Washington, Madison, Monroe, Adams, Jackson, Van Buren, and Harrison.
Well done,
and
Ross.
Polk after that.
Well done. Let's see if I got something for you. Yeah. Let's go, Ross. History teacher would be proud. I guess a Chicago history teacher. I had some random notes as well here in addition to that. So but on the Philly, circling back to the Eagle notes, the Phillies lost the World Series. I saw the MLS Cup, their team. I don't give a shit about soccer, but to have the Phillies and to have the Eagles lose, like, it is just very tough out there to be an Eagles fan. I know many in my own family. That's brutal. And both those franchises.
Unknown caller.
Hopefully we'll bounce back. Ooh, I'm getting unknown calls here. Ooh, I'm getting spammed.
I read something that Philly has had 2 championship winners in the last 40-something years, but they've been runner-up in 10 times in all the 4 major sports. We obviously remember the Eagles championship a couple years ago against Tom Brady. That was the Nick Foles Super Bowl. Can you remember Philly's other championship before that?
Before the Foles Super Bowl, you said?
Yeah.
Was it a Phillies win?
It was a Phillies win. It was that Ryan Howard team. Remember Chase Utley?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that was 2007. That was the last time that they won a championship.
I remember Always Sunny did an episode about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's okay. We get Creed 3 soon, so he's not going to lose that.
Oh boy. I saw on the NBA tip, Michael Jordan donating $10 million to Make-A-Wish in celebration of his 60th birthday Friday. MJ is going to be 60. We're all getting older.
Happy birthday to him. That's $10 million to keep kids who have cancer away from requesting LeBron James show up for their Make-A-Wish.
That's good. Well done. Back, everybody. I feel like a lot of UFO sightings have gone up recently. I feel like they shut down Lake Michigan or some airspace for some of that. Audio from the cockpit of Air Force pilots tracking down the unknown object at Lake Huron. We're seeing the balloon shot down. Weird stuff happening in the sky these days.
There's some weird stuff happening.
Both of us believe the truth is out there, right, Ross?
It is. X-Files. I was a big X-Files fan. Remember the movie Arrival? I thought Arrival was one of the best movies over the last 10 years. Or we just watch Mars Attacks with all those crazy celebrity cameos. And they had the big brain thing for the aliens.
Mars Attacks underrated. We are losing viewers and listeners left and right. Cliff and Nomad have checked out. I'm so sorry, boys. This is what happens.
We're having fun here. It's the dog days of February. Football is over. We got a couple weeks to the combine. You got to have
take a break from the Bears sometimes, fellas. Come on.
Absolutely.
And also, Ross, we're big. It's funny. My wife is rewatching Sex and the City, and I'm rewatching which is a pass for me. And I'm rewatching The Wire. Phenomenal, as we both know. But I was just thinking about True Detective, and HBO alerted me on Twitter that the new season is coming with Jodie Foster. Sure. Night Country set in the Arctic. Let's go. I'm excited.
I can't wait. I love Jodie Foster. She is star of my favorite movie of all time, Silence of the Lambs, as my close friends know. So I cannot wait for that. I love the way True Detective season 3 rebounded after absolutely abysmal season 2. That Vince Vaughn season was absolutely awful, but I love the last season that they had with I forget his name, the guy Mahershala Ali. Thank you, the guy that's gonna be Blade, hopefully soon enough. But yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I never saw Luther before, the Idris Elba show. Speaking of The Wire, so I've been firing up Luther because I saw Netflix alerting me that next month they're having a Luther movie. And it's damn good. There's only 21 episodes in 5 seasons. But basically, he's a psychotic London cop. And if you're a Idris Elba fan, or if you're just like you love those police shows, those whodunit shows and stuff like that, fire up Luther. It's on Hulu. I've been enjoying it.
Dude, it's wild to see it. And again, watching it all comes back to Idris Elba, watching The Wire and him as Stringer. And then, he's doing Tyler Perry movies, and he had a tough sled in there for a bit, and then got just huge breaks. He had that show Luther, and obviously going to the Marvel universe and whatever else in between, just voicing like National Geographic shows and all that. And he just, was he rumored to be Bond too? That would have been a cool turn. I would have been into that.
Yeah, it would have been cool if he was Bond. I think he's a little too old now for that, but Idris Elba, great actor, man. I love watching his work. My wife is a big fan of his for other reasons.
He's a good looking man.
He's a good looking guy.
Good looking dude. All right, do we miss anything, Ross?
I don't think so.
Yeah, we got Oscars coming up soon. We got to watch all them Oscar movies. Did you watch all of them?
I have 3 left. I got 3 left. I've knocked out
3
7
left?
out of 10. Yeah.
You get all this time, man.
I'm on it. You gotta compartmentalize your time. You still have a baby. My kid's 6. He's on iPad all day.
Well, there you go. Yeah, just turn it on while he's doing that. I was about to say, you watched him at work or something? I have to break up. I'm at the point in my fatherhood where I have to break up movies into like 3 nights.
Yeah.
I mean,
I got a 6-year-old. He's playing Roblox and playing Among Us all the time.
Right on. Well, thanks to everybody for we'll call it. Thanks to everybody for watching, listening in on YouTube, on iTunes, Spotify. If you've missed any of this show, any of our previous shows, remember you can check them out there. Like, subscribe, tell a friend or two, and remember to follow the Barroom on Twitter at Barroom Network and enjoy all of their great programming. We'll have a lot of Bears off-season talk coming up in these next several months. It's football is 365, right? We'll be talking about that at length. Follow me and Ross on Twitter. Follow me at the Real Evan Mac. Follow Ross at Ross Reed. And everybody enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the shittiness in Salt Lake City, Utah, and the All-Star game. And be good to each other out there. So long, everybody.
Peace.